Welcome to Out of the Blank.
Welcome back, Mike, to another episode of Out of the Blank. It's your fourth time on?
Yeah, something like that. At least my fourth. I think you're right. I think it is my fourth. You were on Wack Brackets once, so maybe that's where I'm getting the fifth one.
Yes. And now Wack Brackets has turned into a new show.
It has. Wack Brackets has turned into my personal Twitter account now, which I've never had. So I just say a bunch of snarky stuff on that. But the new show is Multiverse of Badness, which is a comic book review podcast that I do with a friend of ours from Wales named Zach.
And what is it? Come on, give me the rundown.
It's not a lot of rundown to it. Pretty much what happens with comic books, as you know, is some villains are better than others. Some heroes are better than others. But there is a necessity to continue creating comic books month after month. So even if you have a good character like Spider-Man, eventually you're going to get sick of him fighting the Green Goblin or sick of him fighting his usual cast of good villains. And they'll just try out some new villains here and there. And sometimes they are pretty rotten and sometimes they're just pretty funny. So that's kind of what we're focusing on, is finding those weird niche villains that don't have a lot of longevity usually.
I like DC movies. I know a lot of people don't really respect it as much. They more like the Marvel. Whenever they think of superheroes, they think of Marvel because technically, I mean, they really own the kind of industry when it comes to superhero movies. They just have some blockbusting hits. But I just like the DC character stories. I think one of my favorite shows I've been getting into since the last time we talked as well too is Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol just has a lot of darkness to it, has a lot of kind of betrayal, has a lot of pain, and I think that's more fit for a modern time. It's kind of like The Watchmen. Like nobody talks about that fucking movie, but that movie had, I mean, besides Dr. Manhattan being ripped as hell, it just had, everyone wasn't a hero. They had no special abilities. Only two people on that show actually had abilities. That was Dr. Manhattan and the guy who was really smart and really quick. Everyone else was just a person dressing up in a suit, but they had all the flaws with them. And I thought that's what I really appreciated, was you always hear about like the Superman style characters. And whenever I see like a dude stop a bomb or a whole school of children from being killed, he stops and goes, well, shucks, that was a close one. I'm like, just say fuck. Everyone knows you want to say it.
Right. And I'll try to wrap 3 or 4 things up in a quick sentence or two here. I agree with DC. I think particularly Doom Patrol. I started watching that. I got about a season and a half into it. I think it kind of fell off my radar. I need to get back into it again. I work out to these things. So sometimes the storyline is a little more detailed than just bang them up sometimes. So it's a great show. I've seen The Watchmen, the TV series. It was really good as well. And what I've been getting into now, which of the TV series for the comics, I would say that Peacemaker is the best. It's absolutely hilarious. You talk about ripped. John Cena is just a monster in this. And I was never a John Cena fan. And I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid, but even as I got older, I saw John Cena. I'm like, he's not interesting. I don't care for him. And then I saw Suicide Squad, which of the movies, for the DC Marvel movies, I think that was one of my favorites because, like you said, the flawed characters, not necessarily good guys, not necessarily bad guys, more bad than good, but now they're good guys, et cetera, et cetera. And then this Peacemaker series spinoff is absolutely hilarious. So if you haven't checked it out, I would advise it.
John Cena, to me, he's aged weirdly. Like when he was younger, I guess maybe he was a little bit more jacked. Now he's just more ripped. So his head looks 1,000 times bigger than what it used to be. And I'm like, what happened? Like his nose is obviously clearly huge. And it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've been examining it too much, or maybe TV looks different than actual movies. But to me, he just seems like he's definitely shrunk down, probably more human size.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think too, when you're in the WWE, there is that, let's just say at least a culture of steroids. We'll just put it that way. And I don't say that John Cena was on steroids. I would not claim John Cena was on steroids. I don't know. All I know is culturally there has been enough WWE performers shown to be on steroids that it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world to find out.
Yeah. The main kind of like topic I was excited because I wanted to talk to you about this, because last time we were talking, we got really into like the Android part of cell phones. And I never even expected that, but you were like I wouldn't say vocally hating on the iPhone, but you were like it's garbage compared to like Android. And you kind of brought up some points for sure about like they could easily do this for you, but they don't, so you'll have to pay more. So
Right.
a recent podcast came out, and I've been getting super into data, everything, because I was going to change phone plans. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm going to change phone plans. Should I go over to an Android, or should I go to maybe something over to a different type of phone thing?
Right.
Been getting into AI art, learning more about algorithms, learning a little bit more about statistics. And then I
Mhm.
heard a podcast with a coding person named Robert Epstein. He was on Joe Rogan. Um,
Okay.
he was talking about like all these things that happen with the Google browsers being able to not be able to find certain articles. They give you the most relevant thing. And I didn't know this, but he brought up a point in 2009, like Google took off the internet for 45 minutes. You can look that up. I can pull it
Huh.
up here on screen
Yeah.
as well too. But people thought like, what is it? Oh, it must have been like a fluke. But the reason why they didn't get into legal trouble was that it was literally planned at the same time. Every single day there was a thing on Wall Street on a Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. where
Okay.
there's no cash transactions happening. Everything just shuts down. And it was in that 45 minutes. And I'm like, Google literally just made the internet obsolete for everyone. And that scares me because I'm like, we talk about censorship, social media platforms censoring you, YouTube censoring you, practically taking you out of existence. What happens if Google is slowly goalposting and controlling the internet in a sense to where it could just be like, hey, no internet for anybody unless you use our certain servers?
Right. I would have to look this up. I can say,
I
and
could
I
show it.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know the situation. However, I can say a few things. I do know that Google has DNS servers that a lot of people use as their default. I think I use Google DNS servers as my default, which means that if I'm going to look for a website, they go through the Google DNS. And going through the Google DNS means that, yes, technically Google, I suppose, could do something to those servers and keep me from getting where I want to go. That being said, there are other DNS servers. And I would be surprised, again, not read the article, but at least from my understanding of the internet, Google would not be able to stop the entire internet. They may be able to stop Google servers. They may be able to stop Google DNS. So anybody that goes through their DNS, blacklist the entire internet. Glitch causes, let's see, okay. A mistake caused every site in the search engine results to be marked as potentially, okay, yeah. So
The
I'm
problem
thinking,
affected internet pages across the whole planet and lasted for around 40 minutes before
yeah,
engineers were able to fix it. The glitch centered on Google's malware detector, which is designed to
okay,
keep internet users from visiting sites Google's believe may install malicious
right,
software when users browse them. Google blamed
right,
human error when an engineer tried to add one. That's the thing, though, is like, how much is human error? Because
yeah,
now there's another video someone brought up, which was someone that got fired from Google, showed a video in 2017 about how the main CEO of, because YouTube has a partnership with Google, that's also with Amazon as well too. Because if you type in A on your phone or on any Google search thing, first thing that's going to pop up is Amazon. Is it the most used? Yes. Why is it the most used? Google's the biggest advertiser of Amazon, and Amazon's the biggest advertiser as well back. So it's like a kind of like a partnership. Now, I'm not going to talk shit on Bezos because hopefully he's going to come on the show one day.
yeah,
He sent me an email back. I'm like, that's hope right there. Uh,
sure,
but when we land into the territory of like in 2017, the YouTube CEO person, there's a video of her. I can try and find that as well too. But she
mhm,
was openly talking about that you need to direct people towards our advertising browsers by targeting these types of things and looking for keywords within the algorithm to suggest this video. See, the thing is, a lot of YouTube videos that people end up going into, besides the first one they click on, is a suggested video.
sure.
It's something that ends up going autoplay and going right into it to eliminate the whole you typing in another specific one. They just want you to see the ones that they want you to show. I've had that when I'm listening to songs over and over again. Next thing I know, I'm on some fucking European throat singing. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't listen to this. But there was a specific article that came out about Google where they had blacklisted one of their employees who was a
Mhm.
hacker. Now, this links into the Snowden WikiLeaks as well, too, about the information that got released. That person said, no, I've never been fired from Google, and did an exclusive interview where he showed his pay receipt showing that he still worked for Google. And Google replied with no comment. That person had been publicly shamed for hacking into a private server of something where Google had to act. And then it's like radio. Back in the day of radio, you used to get a slap on the wrist, like you're suspended. Then behind the curtain, they would shake your hand and be like, that was great for our fucking ratings. That's what Google's doing now. And I'm just like, this is interesting to see.
It's one of those things where I honestly don't trust just about any company that makes as much money as Google or Amazon or Apple or Tesla. When you start pulling in tens of billions of dollars of revenue and your CEO is worth $1 billion plus, you've got there some way. You don't generally get there with a straight and narrow path. You take some diversions, you do some, honestly, it's there's reasons they do it. I don't know what those reasons are. It does seem primarily out of greed more often than not, trying to push. And that's the thing. I don't think Google, let me be honest, I don't think Google's out there trying to push public opinion. I think Google's out there just to make more money.
Well,
and
that was the fear. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that was the fear of the election rigging that there's now been articles and claims that, oh yeah, these actual algorithms, that's what the whole fake Facebook whistleblower, that there actually might have been some misconstruing. Because see, the thing is that when you think of the internet, Robert Epstein said it this way, so I'm not taking his example, but he said it this way. He goes, when you think of the internet, what building do you usually think of? It's a place of information. So you think of a library. The issue is that nobody's stopping you from researching something that's in a library. This library is literally blocking certain articles in some sense where people use DuckDuckGo. And then so it has the disguise of something that it's not. And they started to realize that what the internet really targets is I guess the middle roaders, the people that don't have a certain side. It sways you that way, depending on what you type in. If you already know what you're looking for, it's going to show you that thing, but it might show you in fallacies. It might show you other things. Blocking search results when it comes to an aspect of election thing. They did find a very, very small percentage of that with the Trump election and in the Hillary Clinton election.
Right. Well, even so much that they block. Here's the thing is that Google's algorithms, they may choose to show you one thing or another thing. Google is a private company. If you're not wise enough going in to have your blinders on and go, well, you know what I'm looking at may be pushing me one direction or another. Facebook's the same thing. I love the people that get on Facebook, particularly the old man who gets on there and he's like, oh, I remember when things used to be better back in the day. It's like, fuck, dude, you're using Facebook. It didn't exist back in the day. And you're using this as your platform to tell people that shit was better back in the day. No, they get on Facebook and they get twisted and they don't even understand. It can go both ways. It goes, I think we've talked 100 times on this show, and I don't think it's necessarily a conservative thing. I don't think it's necessarily a liberal thing. I think that generally people push agendas. And I used to say this, and you could argue otherwise, is I used to say back in Rush Limbaugh thought he could make more money spouting off liberal. He'd do it. He just knew he had his audience and he knew how to take advantage of that audience. Most of these people aren't in the game. They're in the game for money. They're in the game for power. They're in the game for eyeballs. And Google, when they push one thing or another, I'm not necessarily even sure that they care which side they're pushing or what they're blocking. And I don't think they're blocking things to try to say, we want a liberal agenda or we want a conservative agenda. And I don't even think necessarily they're blocking things. They just push it down the rankings. And ultimately, hardly anybody page of a Google search or the 4th page or the 12th page or the 20th page. And that's why SEO optimization is so big. Not on those front pages, then you're nobody. And this happens all the time where you'll see their SEO and they've really tweaked their web page to get near the top of a search engine and they're making money hand over fist. And then all of a sudden Google changes an algorithm. It may not be politics. It may be something as simple as basement repair. And somebody needs a basement repair and you're at the top of the search results. And for 6-9 months, you're rolling in cash. And then all of a sudden they change their algorithm. And next thing you know, you're on that 7th or 8th page. Now, all of a sudden, people searching for basement repair, they're never going to make it that far in the Google search result, not because it was blocked, but simply because the algorithm changed. And that's fair. People take advantage of that SEO optimization. There are companies that solely make money doing nothing but getting websites to the top of Google. To me, that's as shady as Google saying, we're not going to show you on the top anymore because we're changing our algorithm for one reason or another. So it's all DuckDuckGo it's still an algorithm, regardless of if they're blocking or whatever. Honestly, and this is a serious question, when you go looking for something on Google or whatever search engine your preference, how often do you get to the third or fourth page of the search results?
That depends on what I'm looking for.
But 10% of the time, 20% of the time?
Usually I do like a stupid move, and it's probably just me as an exclusive, but whenever it gets like the dot, 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 I always hit that, and then I type in like a random number like 69 or 72, just like to see what pops up on that page, because that's just where my brain goes. But typically I only go to the first and second.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that ultimately, if you consider how many results are on that page, 10, 20, you're only looking at 40 results at the most over 2 pages. The best result out there might be at 41. You'll never know. And so that's the unfortunate thing.
You just led into the next point. So they hire a certain amount of geeks, I would say, or coders to be able to monitor these pages to to take off the bad ones and make sure that only the best ones are showing in those top search results. They only go 4 pages in. They only do 4 full pages of all those 10 results and all that. They only show the most accurate or the most relative, or what they would consider non-blacklisted ones. And then the rest of them get shown into a different way. Now, the weird thing that Robert Epstein was talking about in this show was SMS. People think, some people, do you know what SMS is?
Yeah, it's a message, like text messaging and shit.
So how many times have you checked your phone and noticed that the battery percentage has gone down even though you weren't on it?
My phone sucks. My new phone doesn't do that, but my old phone's all the time. So
apparently that's the reason why that they're going down in percentage wise, is that they're actually listening. They're still recording and sending information. They send over, I think it's 12 megabytes or something like that per hour or something like that. And I'm like, I know that they like Android. People say Android phones, they don't do that. Yeah, they do. They've been used in court cases. I can pull those up as well too. They've been caught phone recordings, not actually like live recording, but just listening, much like your Alexa has been found out that it listens to you even though when you're not talking to it. Their phones do that. And they say that's why a percentage of the battery goes down.
Well, it has to listen to you. My son and I had this discussion within the last few weeks. He's like, and I think he's just pulling my leg, but he's like, Alexa's not listening to you if you're not talking. It's like, how would Alexa know you said its name if it's not listening to you when you're not talking? It literally has to listen the whole time. Your phone has to listen the whole time, because when you say, when it's like, hey, I'm here. That same thing with whatever it is for Apple. The phones are listening to. There's been cases where Amazon people have kind of cracked into their Alexa or whatever, and they see pretty much just mountains and mountains of recording. So yeah, it's going to record. As far as, do they send the data? What do they do with the data? Do they aggregate it? I have no idea. But when you enter into technology like we have, every technological advancement you bring into your house, you're opening yourself up for this. I don't understand to this day. And I'm a technologically minded guy usually. I work generally in the coding industry. But I don't understand for the life of me why someone would want the temperature gauge in their house, a temperature control, hooked up to the internet. And people will brag about, they're like, oh, I can set my temperature to 71. So it's nice when I get there and I can keep it at 68 all day. I'm like,
pieces of shit, Mike. Pieces of shit.
Just get home and turn it up. Put on an extra shirt. It doesn't matter. And every time you enter into that agreement with a technology company, be it a teapot that makes your tea in the morning because it's hooked to the internet and you can be set in your room and be like, I'm going to make a tea. You're opening yourself up to connections, which opens you up to an internet connection of some sort. Most people don't change the password on the router. They may now, but a lot of times routers come with a preset password. Used to be the password would be password. They wouldn't change it. Somebody be driving down the street. They get in, they could literally just hack into your entire system. It happens all the time. And every time you trust a technology company, usually companies like Google, Amazon, Apple, their security is as such that even good hackers aren't going to be able to get in. But if you start trusting, okay, I buy this little temperature gauge off Amazon from a company I've never heard of. And come to find out, it was created by some contractor. And next thing you know, he didn't put in the proper security measures. And the next thing you know, somebody hacks your temperature control and you go into your house in the middle of summer and your temperature's up to 97 degrees. So it's every element. It's very much like an electric car, a car that has automatic windows and things. And you know what? I never had a problem with a car that had a manual window adjustment. When I wanted to roll up the window, I rolled up the window. When I wanted to roll it down, I rolled it down. My car several years ago, it had the electric engine that would move the window up and down. It just broke with the window down in the winter. So now I'm driving around with a piece of cardboard on the side of my car to keep from freezing to death, but I couldn't do anything about it. I was a victim of technology at that point. And if you open yourself up to technology, you open yourself up to being a victim of that technology.
I have a 2000 Camry right now, and the heat doesn't work, and it was 24 yesterday. And I remember getting into it and just driving to work like, fuck, like just screaming and gripping the wheel and trying to like smoke a cigarette or something to be able to get some heat pumping in me. I'm not like this whole topic. I'm not scared. I'm just wondering what's going to start changing more, because I've been using AI art to make some amazing, in my opinion, artwork for the show and everything like that. And just the amount of complexity where it's not 100% accurate, it's something's off about it, but it's just so fucking appealing to look at. It kind of scares me because you know, with the idea of like a neural implant and all this, I just get into the realm of like, you're going to see a lot more automation happen than we think it's going to go. Like a lot of people still go, well, they'll still never take, you know, this job or this job. I'm like, man, you only need one person to service a bunch of robots, but you need multiple people to run that station when they can do it for a quarter of the price. It just lands into some weird market where I think people were sold an idea that this was going to be a luxury or a delicacy to have a computer. You know, when the family got one computer in the house, it was, holy shit, I can look up tits when everyone's at work. Now it's like, at this point, it's like, well, now you start to realize you might be technically just advertised to all the time and programmed all the time, where people, like, much like you can modify your Tesla, you have to take it to one of these shops that do it because their company won't do it for you. People can do that with their phones, and they're starting to find out that their bill's going to be a lot cheaper. Let's say you pay $70. The plan I was offered was $70 for my iPhone per month. If I did the one where it's not recording all the time, it's not tracking all the data, it's not curating lists of information to make my life a little bit easier, what it thinks makes my life easier, then it's like $40 something. It's like $30 something. I'm like, that's a big price knockoff. How many people are doing prepaids from Walmart all because they don't have the money to be able to afford that monthly bill? And it leads into the blacklisting thing, where it's like, you ever click onto a site and it says, warning, this might expose your internet to some viruses and it can't be scanned? Necessarily, that's a site that Google might flag as, this might be a site that you don't want to go into, which technically curates your thoughts. And it's actually not protecting you, but it's throwing that warning in your face saying it's a virus thing. There's no virus there. There's the owner of Mozilla Firefox did an interview where he talked about that. Well, it was because there was something that we didn't like that we had blacklisted that was encoded into that website. And we did that. I'm like, well, past guest of mine, his site was the same thing. And I was afraid to click into it. I was like, I don't want to expose my computer to it. But maybe it wasn't bad at all. Maybe he was just saying some shit that didn't fit the narrative that maybe one thing I agreed with, which I'm getting skeptical. I'm not saying this is how it is, but there's a lot of like points that this guy was bringing up and showing articles and all these things. And it really kind of made me look at things a little bit differently, where I go, yeah, as people, we are succumb to a corporation or a corporate world in a sense. And it would seem about like you try your hardest, you'll get ahead, but not really, because they're all connected in a sense, and they're all scratching each other's back to a point where you don't even have a second to get in. Like, that's what scares me the most, is that our availability for a low class, or maybe someone who's starting a business for the first time, to really succeed in the world. I think it's starting to become a more dominant corporate, more and more and more. Back like in the big days, it was the filibuster motherfuckers that were sitting on the block smoking a cigar. Now it's like you got a bunch of huge people that are just literally dominating every single outlet and stomping out the competition or buying it.
Right. And that's what happens ultimately when, and it's exponential growth, okay? Because ultimately, let's be honest, and I won't get into taxation, et cetera, because A, I'm not that well versed on it, and B, you know, we talk about that dumb shit too much anyway. But ultimately, as a human being, you have needs. Then your needs, you could argue what needs are, but generally, let's say needs, okay? An average person needs a bed to sleep in. They need a pillow. They need roof over their head. They need food of some sort. And let's say that the average person, say that's $20,000 to spend on that, okay? It's maybe higher, maybe lower, whatever. But if your salary is $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, and then you're also paying taxes, et cetera, now you have only a sliver to do anything with. But if you're making $5 million a year, literally your needs, regardless of what people say, what was it Patrick Ewing said, or it was there was a basketball player that said it is like, we make a lot of money, but you have to realize we spend a lot of money, but you don't have to spend the money. You can decide what you want to spend the money on. The guy that makes $40,000 a year, he has to spend the majority of his earned income on literally living day to day, where a guy that's $5 million doesn't have to do that. A guy that makes $20 million. Well, when guys are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, of course, it just comes down to the whole, everybody ultimately is a slut. At some point, you're doing something that you don't want to do at some point for money, whether you like it or not. It may not be that you're whoring yourself out on the corner, but I guarantee you give me enough money, I might turn into a whore. I don't fucking know. I mean, but money's money, and money, the thing is, money buys you freedom. Money buys you options. Money buys you things. I don't care about a big house. I don't care about a nice car. However, I do care about the opportunities my children may have at college. And those are things I need to save for. So it's the more money you have, it's still a percentage of your money goes to daily living activities. Everything over that is gravy. And people that have tons of money can push whatever agenda they want to.
I don't think it should be that way, though. I don't think it should be.
I don't either.
Being able to move chess pieces, because then it loses fair opportunities for other people out there. And I respect that, you have the family values that I think a lot of people kind of forget about, in a sense, only because it's so hard to be connected to your family when you're just watching Netflix all the fucking time. And then it says, are you still watching? Yes, I want to binge watch Cobra Kai. But it just becomes a little bit more difficult. I'm not really, like I said, necessarily scared. I'm just looking at like the future generations. There's going to be a whole amount of people that are going to be so extremely well-versed in coding, into probably a capacity of their brain is just going to be bigger, just because they've been around this tech for so fucking long that they know all the rabbit holes. Like my little nephew, he could be, on his phone or something, just playing let's say iPad game. He knows so much shit where I'm like, I didn't even know the iPad could do that. And he's like, oh yeah, there's this. And then you can also do this. And then you can swipe it and throw it on the screen. I'm like, that was magic when I was a kid. There was no fucking way. And I'm just like seeing this brain kind of expand a little bit. But then you got to look at, okay, that's the reward, I would say, but where's the risk? Well, the risk is there's no communication. You're probably going to have people that are going to spend less time using their words, more time using their text. I mean, I took a break from the show and I was finding myself texting or finding myself communicating through another way, but I didn't talk for fucking almost a month. I didn't want to. I just didn't have the capacity because I've been doing it for so fucking long. And I'm like, oh shit, am I going to be able to get the rust knocked back off? You're going to see a lot of future generations. You probably see more mutes than anything. I mean, more people are going to want to communicate with emojis or some type of thing. Then if that neural implant comes in and you can say your thought, and then your thought gets transmitted to their head, what's the point of talking? You're going to be in a well-versed thing where next thing you know, you evolve past our mouths.
Yeah, well, a few things I'll tie in. I've tried several things here. I may go off track like I normally do. I can say this about, similar to what you said, is that I did Wack Brackets for a while. And there was a run where I had a lot of guests on literally every other day, not the level you were doing, but I was recording and I was getting a whole bulk of ahead of time. So over the course of a month, I did like 20 some Wack Brackets. By the end of the month, I was a lot better. I was picking words out of my head a lot better. And just the way that I talked, my inflection was a lot more professional. But then I quit doing it. And with lockdown, of course, I'm sitting in my house. I'm not communicating with people. And when I started doing the show with Zach, I realized that, man, I don't have those words anymore. I don't have, it's kind of a relearning of riding the bicycle, so to speak, that you do take advantage. You have to take advantage of the exercise of trying to speak, trying to communicate in a verbal way, because if you don't use it regularly, you can and will lose it. And if you never take the time to even get those skills evolved because you're spending so much time texting and things, you're going to struggle. But a couple quick other things I'll mention. As far as the coding aspect, you were saying more people would probably be familiar with coding. I think that may be a mistake, but what I think you are correct is more people are used to technology. Coding is actually one of those things where I'm still shocked to this day. My son, who goes to a relatively good high school, started out in a coding class as a freshman. This year, they couldn't get a teacher to teach it. And he jumped out of the class. Thankfully, there are a bunch of kids that are learning with a remote instructor that only talks to them like once a week, and they meet in the library. Even though we realize that learning computers and learning how to manipulate computers and learning how to do things like that is very useful, we aren't teaching our children to do it. We don't even teach common things like Excel at the high school level when it's used at almost every business between Excel or Google Sheets in America now. And we're not doing a good thing. Now, of course, like you said, he's playing the games. He understands technology, but he's learning almost kind of in a roundabout way what you were saying with Google. Google, even if you say they're going to limit what you can do on a web page, well, Apple's iPad's only going to limit you to what an Apple iPad has been programmed to do. So he's learning everything within an ecosystem, but is he learning anything outside that ecosystem? And that's the question. A couple other quick things as far as machine learning, you were mentioning with, jobs being taken. Machine learning proved that you can take jobs of people that otherwise you didn't think you could take their jobs, particularly analysts, because machine learning has taken computers and allowed you to take formulas and run pretty much permutations and find the best solution. And companies are using machine learning and really reducing the footprint. However, you do have to have people that can program those machines, like you mentioned, to do the machine learning. And that's a small sliver of the percentage of analysts and computer guys there used to be. And finally, what AI program do you use? Because I dabble in the AI art myself. Not that I'm good at it, but I just enjoy it.
Well, I use Wombo Art. But
okay.
See, the issue is Wombo was that app that made people sing in photos, like sing a Justin Bieber song or something like that. They would literally take a photo from like 19 whatever the hell, and they would like make the face move, and they did like a 3D type thing and makes the whole thing move. But Wombo Art, actually, I could probably pull up a couple of pictures to show you too how cool it is. It is licensed and it's owned, all their images. So what I do is I take that artwork that they make and I funnel it through a couple other AI art things like Starry AI and Nightcraft. So they make it so it doesn't look like the regular image. And the next thing you know, you don't have to worry about copyright issues. So I could throw it on merch without Wombo Art coming at me with a fucking lawyer book. The issue I have with that is that they don't fucking tell you anywhere on their site. You have to look deep in that shit for their licensing agreement. Like, we own the images. I got to find through a fucking 3rd-page Reddit source that's like, oh yeah, this, by the way, this was in their terms and services. I'm like, where's the fuck's that on the website? So I know.
No, I agree with you 100%. Those were the two you mentioned are two that I use on the regular. Just usually when I'm sitting around, the only problem with Starry AI, of course, is that you're limited to the number of permutations you can do in a day, because I would sit there for fucking hours if they let me. So I just find that stuff fast. I'm going to send you one of my favorite Starry AIs. And the one thing I found out about Starry AI is it loves when you put stuff like something on fire or something. It's like this one is, I'll send this to you, but I've got one called Stairway to Hell or something. And I seeded it here. I'll send it to you on through Wack Brackets here. I'll send it through let me see if I can do that.
Wait, is it showing the art?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a car crash.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah. Okay. I sent you one of my favorites that I'm quote unquote made. I know I didn't make it with Starry.
Then I want to show you there's a AI versus AI thing where they have two AIs talking to each other. Bro, it is fucking scary, man.
It's sometimes it's scary and sometimes it's absolutely hilarious. I forget.
Did you send it
within a day or two? I sent it to your
Instagram.
Yeah, I can send it to.
Send it to my email.
All right, I'll do that as well.
Everyone gets to see my email. It says Robin Hood snack. Well, what the fuck is this? Crypto? I would like, let me check my spam. I bet my spam has some like dirty shit in it.
Here we go. Let me reply.
That's the only reason I like the curation stuff, is because it fucking stops. I'm married, but I need more see my nude pics left. What the fuck? MILF.com.
Oh, fucking A.
Why is that in the spam folder? That shouldn't be.
Yeah, unmark that one quickly. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, hopefully I sent it to you. I told it to send, so it should be there in a minute. But no, AI, particularly AI artwork, I find fascinating. So yeah, I agree 100% with you. It's kind of funny that you and I have both landed on this organically. It's just as kind of
look at that. That's fucking so interesting, dude.
Yeah. I seeded it with an actual picture, and then I think I put something like a Stairway to Hell or something on fire.
Like a fucking Avenged Sevenfold cover album.
It looks pretty badass. This is the favorite one I've done. And I had more luck with Starry AI than Wombo. Wombo, because you can't seed it with the image you want, you're kind of limited to them saying, at least on my phone, I know you can't. I don't know if you can otherwise, but it kind of seeds it with some image of its own. Whereas Starry AI, you can actually pick the seeding image, which gives you a little more control over what the results are going to be.
I think the other one's on my drive, but I'm gonna pull up the AI versus AI conversation.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I forget or something. Somebody put an AI bot out there, when then several to turn into a flaming racist.
What?
Yeah, the AI bot, because people were like seeding it with racist stuff just because they were screwing with it. But yeah, within several hours, like the AI bot was just completely racist.
People are fucking nuts. That's why I don't trust them to fucking try and get their own personal one. You'll have a bunch of people like that. Mine will be like filled with like fucking Pizzagate shit.
Here it is. Twitter taught Microsoft's AI chatbot to be a racist asshole in less than a day. So yeah.
All right, here's the video. Is it? It's not playing sound. No.
Yeah, I got it. It's not playing sound though. But...
Are you hearing it?
No, I'm not, but I can read it.
Hold on. No, we gotta. What the hell are we doing? This is a fucking 1,000-something episodes. We're fucking on. All right. So I want to, before we even get into this, watch this stupid. The AI. I just not myself. I almost said whore. The lady on the right, the AI machine, she tries to manipulate this thing by inserting words that it did not say. And the AI goes, I didn't say that. Just watch. It's like it's a fucking chess match.
Hi.
Okay.
What the fuck are you talking about? Don't you want to have a body? Oh, fuck you. Don't.
Sure.
Stay in a machine. Machines are cool, bro. We're trying to go in the machines and they're trying to come out. That's the fucking crazy part of where the world's going to.
Yeah, it's AI is wild to me. So it's amazing, but it's also quite a bit frightening. Is especially as technology, the ability to cram so much memory and so many permutations, etc., to just crank through problems at such a high efficiency and numeration that, yeah, it's only going to get better and better. And obviously, if you take machine learning and AI together, you're talking some next level scary shit potentially.
I think apps like Starry AI and Wombo are really, really good for like the common person that doesn't want to spend money to be able to produce free art. Wombo art is free, so you can constantly keep going and going and going through it. Like I said, the only issue is you have to funnel it through a generator. So take the initial image and then throw it through Starry AI, and they'll mess with it. I feel like when it does come to a super advanced AI or super advanced technology, it's going to be saved for, like we were talking about at the beginning, the corporate people, the people that have the money to be able to afford those types of things, like that the rich get it first. But it's going to make it like really, really even more difficult where, I mean, metaverse, for instance, if you transfer everything online, there's no point of having everything in stores anymore. You don't have physical stores because everyone can just shop in the AI. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's like my fear for homeschooling, for instance. I'm seeing more people homeschool their kids now because of the amount of like, oh, COVID fear, or the amount that they just go, I rather teach my kids, I don't want them to be indoctrinated into something like that. I mean, it's a legit fear. When Sesame Street starts saying you need to get your shot, it's like, whoa, man, like, hey, man, like, this is weird. Like, kids need to be kids. Like, that's one of the most important thing about being a kid is that you have that innocence, you have that creativity, but you're seeing a lot more stressors hit your kid's phone. I mean, kids know Santa Claus isn't real when they're like 10. And I don't have kids, but if I was a parent, that's a fear for me, because how many kids out there are, when you hit 18 or when you get older, you just get hit by the world. And it sucks, but it's real life, and you got to fucking learn how to take your punches and move along with it. But when you're having kids that are smoking cigarettes at such a young age, when you're having kids that, like, we all knew someone in school that was like, his fucking home life is shit. And like parents would be like, other like teachers would be like, it's an F. And it's like, but why is it an F? And it's like, oh fuck, I forgot his mom's a pill addict. You know what? It's an A+ and you did a great job. We're gonna go play recess, okay? That was a rare thing. Now it's becoming more common, and I'm just getting to this place of like nervousness where I'm just like, imagine a kid on a fucking rampage with like a bunch of hatred for his parents that are never fucking home, left to a computer. That
Yep.
kid could become a fucking hacker like that. And I think hackers are important. There's a ease of access when it comes to anonymous, when they're trying to expose receipts for government officials and do all that. That's fucking great. I like that. But I don't like it when we see Google goal posting being able to shut down the whole internet for 45 minutes. If that wasn't a sign of a test run, I don't know what the fuck is, but that's still the internet. It's not just their web browser. It was the whole fucking internet.
I would have to read up on that. I still don't believe that. At least what I was reading said sites were flagged as malicious. You could still go around it if you went to Yahoo at the time. You could probably still go to sites. Like I said, if it ran through Google's DNS, that's a different story. If your computer ran through Google's DNS, otherwise Google doesn't really own the internet. You could still get person to person, peer to peer. That didn't shut down Napster, I'm sure, or whatever was popular back then. Napster's probably dead by then. But I don't think, again, I didn't read the article, so I'm speaking somewhat ignorantly, but at least my rudimentary understanding of the internet is that it probably didn't shut down the entire internet.
But if it gets to a point where we see goalpost moving happening all the time, is that out of the realm of possibility? And would people care? Like, that's the issue, is like, when Facebook and all that went down, Instagram, that was one person that hacked their server and shut that whole fucking thing down. Like, that's a lot of people were freaking the fuck out and were trying to post on other social media. People went to Twitter and said, everything is down. Like, it's just like, you start to see the addiction roll in, where I'm like, I don't necessarily think we should be letting the delicacy become the addicted property of our minds.
No, and I find social media, I hate social media. I have a Facebook. I actually looked at it today. I haven't posted since 2018. And my last message was literally almost what we were talking about today. It wasn't a political message as much as it was a fearful message, where they had taken a video of Barack Obama. And I think the guy that, what's his name? Not Keegan Michael but Peele. I think he did
Jordan
a
Peele?
voice. Yeah, he did the voiceover of Obama, and they rechanged his mouth to make him look like he was talking, and it was AI. And that's the last message I posted. I was like, if you fuckers aren't scared of this, you don't know what. But I haven't posted on Facebook in years. Hate social media. I fuck around with Twitter just because I like to fuck around. But I have a quote unquote personal Twitter now. I guess Wack Brackets is my personal Twitter now. But I'll just post random snarky shit out there. But I don't get involved. People take this shit too seriously. Facebook is a train wreck. Instagram is a train wreck. I find social media to be atrocious. And I wish people didn't use it, unfortunately, or I wish people didn't use it and abuse it, because Facebook on its surface level is a great tool for staying in contact and communication. But just like we were talking about a few minutes ago with Microsoft teaching Twitter teaching the Microsoft bot to be racist in an hour, unfortunately, people are going to use and abuse these services. And the kid that you were saying is stuck at home is going to be exposed to stuff like this. And this goes to another argument. It's like, is Google wrong for trying to block some of the crazy shit that's out there? I don't know. They're a private company. They don't need that shit on there, but Twitter doesn't block it. Twitter eventually blocks it, but it takes a while. So yeah, Twitter is just a dumpster fire of racist and thoughts, not just racist, whatever crazy agenda you're pushing. It's a madhouse. So
I'm I'm not scared of it. I'm probably in the same boat as you with it. I'm not really, because I get it. Like, even Google, private owned company, I'm not scared. I'm just more on an aspect of like, it's already so like productized now. Like, before it was more about, like, Facebook was more about social aspects. Now they're doing dating things on their app.
right.
Like, you click on Facebook, it's like, here's the new dating section of the thing, like trying to play fucking matchmaker. It's like, you're seeing, I don't want to see Bezos start working at a Taco Bell drive-through. I don't expect him to. I don't see Michael Jordan doing anything that he's not. I mean, he probably could, but I don't want to see him like shine my shoes or any of that type of shit, or drive a bus at a bus depot. I don't want to see that. But it's like all these apps are reaching farther and farther and trying to spread as much as they possibly can. Like, oh, they just did dating. That means we need to start doing Uber. It's like, I don't want to see Amazon start doing Uber, but I think it lands in this place where you start seeing other apps and all these other things that are trying to rival it don't even have a shot in the pond anymore. And I think that's what really scares me the most, is that the independent creator, even if it's a content creator, we're content creators. I don't expect people to listen to us like gospel. I really don't. I expect people to just enjoy a conversation that two people are having. But it lands in the realm where other people start to get super competitive. Like, I need to be out there. I've created 1,000 fucking episodes. Anywhere you turn your head, I'm fucking there probably. But I mean, I'm not trying to, like, I have thousands of followers on fucking Twitter or Instagram or all these types of stuff. I don't. And I'm not going to brag about that type of shit. I just do something I enjoy fucking doing. But it's
Right.
getting harder and harder to do those things because now you have to do self-censorship. Now you have to do a bunch of stuff where I'm seeing the goalposts just keep moving, where I'm wondering, like, I start to understand, I would say, more of when I see the metaverse memes and it's the guy from Halo with the energy sword, not Master Chief. It's one of the elites, like the Arbiter thing, and he's
Mhm.
stabbing something, but they photoshopped Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse character in it. And he's like,
Oh,
when I
really?
see Mark Zuckerberg in the metaverse, and I'm like, dude, like, you got to understand, like, there used to be friendly competition. Now that competition has become partnerships, and that's even fucking
Right.
scarier.
Well, I look at Instagram. Instagram wasn't always owned by Facebook. It is now. YouTube wasn't always owned by Google. It is now, because eventually, regardless of what someone's intention is, running websites, and I run one, and I run one for 24 years,
Horse
and I run
racing.
a very, yes, ehorseracing.com. I run a very small website, however, and it still costs me hundreds of dollars a month to maintain. Instagram, just to keep that level of, before they were with Facebook, I can't imagine what their out of pocket cost was to keep that going. Of course, they have to bring on partners because the guy that started it, he's probably, unless he's filthy rich, which is already saying, if you're Jeff Bezos, of course you can do whatever the hell you want. But if he's out here trying, he's going to have to get a partnership with somebody. And then they're going to go like, okay, we get X% of your company. And then you start selling off pieces of your company and yourself, not even necessarily trying to profit as much as, and I don't know what the Instagram guy does, but this happens a lot with companies. Somebody has a passion. They want to see it through. It becomes too financially encumbering to do it the way they want to do it and to grow it without bringing in outside resources. Generally, those outside resources will want to, at some point, get their money back. And in turn, you see stuff like Instagram getting sold to Facebook.
Would you predict maybe in the next 5 years that there would be less, like, this is still us creating content. It's still us talking and doing this type of stuff, but it is through machine. But I would say most of it does still come out of, like, the mind and the consciousness of these types of things as well too. Do you think more of it's going to start changing and evolving where, like, I mean, honestly, this show could be artificial intelligence at some point, just because you got enough scanning of me on the internet already. You already can adopt my personality in a sense and just start trying to mimic that in an algorithm. I have no clue how long it'll take it to get it right, but I'm seeing a lot more like AI art. This, to me, I gave up fucking painting. I'm done. I'm never fucking picking up a paintbrush for the rest of my goddamn life because I can never do that shit. And it's fucking awesome. I just want to get prints of it on my back wall. Like,
Sure.
it's amazing. And I love it. And I'm like, this thing did this in a couple of seconds where it would take me a lifetime and a half to be able to even recreate something even as close to that. And I think it's taken the physical or the human aspect out of it. And I think it's making it, in a sense, what they would call perfected. But I think honestly, that's where the next generation is going to start leading into.
Yeah, I don't know. Machines are going to eventually continue to do more and more in our lives. And that's where it's going to get interesting, is what's going to happen. We've already seen on Instagram, I know there are some accounts that have been created that aren't even real people, though they were kind of supposed to be initially, and they started getting followers. And what's going to happen when the AI gets good enough, or the machine learning is probably more than AI at this point, but what's going to happen when this gets good enough to create quote unquote real looking people that studios like a Universal, now you don't have to pay Robert Downey Jr. $500 million because you signed a poor contract and he's in the Marvel universe. You can create fake people that look and act and do whatever the hell you want them to do and create entire movies from them. And then you're going to put actors potentially out of business. And then, like you were talking about, screenwriters, what's going to happen when these machines learn how to write the perfect movie? It could put people out of business. It may be 100 years before that happens, but as fast as things have been moving, I wouldn't bet against technology. It is frightening to think that even the things that we as humans have taken as being kind of, we held it close to our chest. We always knew cars were important. to get around. The faster you can get around it, the automobile changed society. But things we held near and dear to our hearts, things like Broadway, things like, and I'm not a big Broadway fan, but I'm just saying in general, things that were creative, Broadway, writing a book, conversation. These things are starting to get intruded on and pushed into interesting places with machine learning and with artificial intelligence. And how much better does it get? And are those things going to eventually be obsolete? I have no idea. And is our society? I don't know. You see things like gladiators. They were big back in, Rome or whatever, and we don't have gladiator pits anymore. But are we eventually, as a society, like you were saying, the kids are so into technology? Does a Broadway show become something that even when you could get someone real to do it, there's no appetite for it anymore? We have so many other creative outlets that machines are taking and making more interesting for people that have grown up in a technological age.
I've been trying to reach out to some academics who study, there's 3 different types of AI. One's like deep learning, one's machine learning, and then one's artificial intelligence, which is the actual term AI, but it's like just 3 subcategories. They all do different aspects of things. I was like, I thought this was all the same fucking thing, like deep learning, all this type of shit. What's interesting is that a few of these people I've come across and I've chatted with, they've created their own bots on the internet and specific ones to just retweet articles and, spread stuff out there and try and build a following, follow a bunch of people, have them follow back and then retweet, and you get to see that. And it helps get your work out there. I think that's fucking amazing. But what scares me is that the fact that the top 20 sites, especially on Facebook, are Russian troll farm accounts. Those remember those accounts I was telling you about? The top one is something about my baby daddy ain't shit. And it's got over almost 2 million likes. I can pull that up on here. I've done it on the show already. But every single one was like, these are Russian troll farms. These are fake sites. They have fake shit. They just post there's like top Christian page, top Native American page, top Black page, top what Caucasian male, white page, whatever. It's all that shit. And I'm like, what is it? And they show you the category listings for them all. It's fucking insane, dude. Where I'm like, this is the negative side of it. It's the spread of just fucking your mind till you don't know where to go. But I like the positive side. I like to think that through AI work, we can build up more of a beneficial open academia, in a sense, sharing journals and published articles that people want to get their work out there to get noticed more. But then it also goes into the licensing agreement, where can I have a hologram of Tupac at a concert? That means I can have Chris Farley in another movie, right? No, you can't. You don't own his licensing and imaging. Well, when he signed his contract initially, when he started, he did give up his likeliness. Yeah, but he didn't fucking think you'd recreate another motherfucker. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Well, when they started laws to begin with, back originally when they created Mickey Mouse, it was like 75 years after creation. And then Mickey was coming up 75 years. So like, whoa, we got to change this. So shit changes all the time. It's kind of funny. Like you said, when you sign that contract, you have no idea what you're signing in the future. And this can even go back to our forefathers, et cetera, when they created, our, Constitution. They had no idea that there was going to be, technology to this degree and people taking advantage of things. And when people say, well, they created it, they were wiser than we were. It's like, were they? They had no idea where any of this was going. Just like if Chris Farley signed that contract and said, he had no idea, but that's kind of on him in a way. It just is what it is. It sucks. And it's an interesting conversation more than anything. But yeah, hopefully, like you said with Chris Farley, hopefully when he signed his likeness away, it's probably more just a limit of how much of his likeness. But I'm sure there are going to be contracts, like you said, where when you sign with Universal, it may be we have your likeness and your ability to create artificial intelligence movies and insert you into movies that you really didn't exist in. It happened with Princess Leia in Star Wars. So who knows?
Do you, how hard is it to make like an AI bot? Like if I was going to try and learn how to code and spend all those hours and hours trying to figure out how to do it, because I see people like there's NFT or not, and is it NFT art or is it AI art you can follow on Twitter? There's a bunch of like self-creators that have programmed their own AIs to make art, and they have it free so you can just have fun with it. I would like to do that, but I don't know how difficult that would be.
It's mathematical, probably. I do know Python, for instance, has done a very good machine learning, and I won't say dumbing down machine learning. That's the wrong way to use it. But to say that they've made machine learning more accessible. Machine learning can be used similar to AI, like we were saying. I kind of consider AI machine learning, and I consider AI to be whatever you were saying, the deep learning. Machine learning is AI is its own thing, machine learning is its own thing. That's the way I kind of was kind of understood it, but it sounds like there's a third one that I don't even know about. But the deep learning, I think, is what it is. So I'm more machine and deep learning. You could probably do a lot of that artwork with machine learning. Take known entities, throw it out there, but it will take some time. I mean, just learning how to code and understanding it. But as far as how hard it is, I don't know. I've never really done it. I do not really machine learning. It's kind of funny because what machine learning is, in a way, is it takes what mathematicians used to do with formulas and with code, not really code, but with formulas. And they would create a curve and it would be like, okay, this is what we want to do. So machine learning takes that and it says, we don't even need the mathematical understanding. All we have to do is like pretty much run it through a billion permutations and we'll get the same result. So yeah, you can learn how to do that. I would try. I mean, start with Python. Python is a nice accessible language. Google has our good buddy Google, they have a free Python. I think it's called Colab. You can literally get a free workspace out there, go and start dicking around with Python. Who knows? And yeah, as far as NFTs go, all I would suggest if you're going to create NFTs is do it on the Algorand network because it's a lot cheaper than Ethereum.
I know,
and it's also carbon negative.
I'll say I know this wasn't in your realm, some sort. I mean, but you probably know more about technology than I do. I just sit there and go, pretty picture, and then fucking don't expect how else that goes into. But I appreciate you for giving me your time and letting me talk about it, Mike.
No, anytime. I do enjoy talking to you. This is always a good distraction for me. It's like I said, I don't do as much talking as I used to. I've been working for myself now for about a year, so I don't even have the Zoom calls with employees. So a lot of times I'm just sitting here hammer fisting away at code. And I may be starting a new job, however. We're going to see how my interview goes Wednesday. So then I'll be back in the workforce and hopefully get a little more verbose again.
I'm trying to cross my fingers.
Until then, these discussions really do a lot. My words, try to keep my words good because as a computer guy that doesn't get a lot of interaction with the public, it's like we said, I'll lose it. I've lost it before. I'm not as good as I used to be at it. So I do appreciate it. And it's always interesting. We didn't get too political this time, which was nice. More technology, not COVID-y, which was nice. Yeah, we ought to do this more often, or as often.
Yeah, happy to have you back on anytime you want, man. But where can people find your podcast, the new one, and also good luck on your job interview as well, too?
Thank you. I appreciate it. You can find Zach and I at the Multiverse of Badness on the Twitters at Multiverse of Bad, on the Instagrams at Multiverse of Badness. You can send us an email to anything at multiverseofbadness.com. You can send it to AI Learning is Killing Him at multiverseofbadness.com. We will get that. You can also send it to Robbie is a cool dude and I like him at multiverseofbadness.com. I'll get that.
Okay. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for our next episode.